Welcome to Law Excellence Hindu News Analysis. Today we are going to cover these 5 topics that are appearing in the Hindu newspaper, which can be important from the perspective of both prelims and mains examination of UPSC. Now coming to the first article of the day. This article is saying that tapping into Kazakhstan's rare earths potential. Now what is the context of the news? Now the author is saying that Kazakhstan has a lot of rare earth mineral resources. Hence, India need to diversify its dependence from China to avoid any supply chain disruptions and all those things. Now, this is what the context of the news. Okay. Now, this article is important from the two perspectives. One is from the perspective of distribution of mineral resources. Distribution of mineral resources is a syllabus topic in GS paper 1. And next important thing is from GS paper 2 IAS section also, that is importance of Central Asia. Kazakhstan is in the Central Asia, right? If you see this GS paper 2 question of previous year question of GS paper 2, it was asked that a number of outside powers have entrenched themselves in the Central Asia, which is a zone of interest to India. Now discuss the implications in this context of India joining the Ashgabat Agreement, 2018. Now, in this way, this article also can be important from the mains perspective. The data that is mentioned here, or some of the facts mentioned in this article, can be used in examination in these type of things. First of all, what is meant with the rare earth, elements and all those things? See, rare earth elements are nothing but 17 chemical elements that occur together in the periodic table. That it has been said that there are around 15 lanthanides, and scandium and erythrium. These are the 17 elements. And just because of their calling as a rare earth, they are not rare in quantity. Okay, some of the rare earth minerals are very abundant in the earth crust. For example, cerium. They are abundant on even copper and lead. But why they are called rare? Because their extraction is very difficult. Why very difficult? Because they are very deep seated in nature. Okay, they are so-called rare earth because they were originally, isolated, and technologically it was very difficult to extract them, from their oxide forms and all those things. That is why they are called as the rare earth minerals. Okay. Okay. Now, what this article is saying? See, presently the globe, all the countries, shifting to the clean energy. Okay. Now, the demand for rare earth has surged, making India's dependency on the imports. Now, for example, the semiconductor industry, the solar industry, all the renewable sector and all those things are require this rare earth minerals. For example, EV vehicles require lithium, cobalt, nickel and all those things. Solar, silicons for silicon wafers and all those things. All these are the rare earth minerals. Hence, for a proper energy transition we require rare earth minerals. But this article is saying that presently India has dependency on China. Like this article is saying that around 60% of India's rare earth minerals are imported from the China. Hence, China has the monopoly in this sector, especially the supply chain of rare earth minerals. Hence, India need to diversify its sources. That is what this article is saying. Now, in the process of diversifying its sources, Kazakhstan can emerge as a strategic partner. That is what this article is saying. Okay. Now, next important thing this article is mentioned is that, first of all, this article mentions certain data regarding the China's dominance in the rare earth. For example, this article is saying China controls around 70% of global rare earth minerals production, and heavily influences the global supply chains. And not only that, one third of the rare earth, mineral resources possession is also in the China resources available. And India dependence on China for rare earth poses risk, especially in the critical sectors like electronics, defense and renewable energy, all those things. Another important thing is that recently there are certain restrictions put by the China, especially in the import of antimony from the China, on the name of internal security issues and all those things. To avoid such instances in the future, India need to diversify its rare earth mineral imports. That is what this article is saying. Okay. This article also mentioned that why Kazakhstan is particularly important. Kazakhstan as an alternative and it's significant. Okay. The first and foremost thing is that Kazakhstan holds around 15 of the 17 rare earth minerals. Just now I mentioned that there are 17 rare earth elements. So among the 17, 15 of the 17 rare earth elements are present in this Kazakhstan. And Kazakhstan also focusing on the advanced extraction technology, because just like India, Kazakhstan also have limited extraction technology. The thing is that Kazakhstan already collaborating with the countries like Japan, Germany, US and EU in this process of rare earth exploration and production. Now it is the right time for India to collaborate with Kazakhstan. Now that is what this article is saying. This article is saying that rare earth elements like dysprosium, which is essential for renewable energy, are projected to significant growth in the extraction in Kazakhstan over the time. There are the recent policies taken by the Kazakhstan. Okay, hence India need to collaborate with Kazakhstan. Now, this article also mentioned that what are the present status of collaboration with respect to this mineral security. Okay, the article is saying that presently India is engaged with Kazakhstan through the Connect Central Asia policy. You know that India has a policy of Connect Central Asia, right? Now, India is engaging with Kazakhstan through the Connect Central Asia policy and taken initiatives like, participated in initiatives like International North-South Transport Corridor, right? And this corridor is also very important, right? To strengthen its relationship with the Central Asia, to bypass this Pakistan, Afghanistan, and all those things. Okay. Next, the proposed, India Central Asia Rare Earth Forums. For example, recently in a meeting, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, proposed this India Central Asia Rare Earth Forum. This enables joint mining ventures, sharing expertise, sustainable practices, so that can reduce the India's reliance on China over the time. Okay. Another important thing is that Kazakhstan's advancements in processing materials like beryllium, scandium, tantalum, and niobium. Niobium is very important in the nuclear energy sector, right? Tantalum and niobium. That aligns, all these policies are aligned with India's renewable energy goals also. Because if India's having the renewable energy goals, for example, India committed to achieve this 500 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. This requires a lot of new technology, especially rare earth minerals. That's what they're saying. Hence, this article is saying that India's collaboration with Kazakhstan, presents an opportunity to enhance the resource security for India, so that we can reduce the reliance on China and support the transition to clean energy in India. Okay, these type of strategic partnerships and investments in the technology and sustainable extraction practices are critical to address the current challenges and unlock the mutual economic benefits for India and Kazakhstan. Now, this is what this article is saying. Okay, now this is what the article is saying. Try to use certain facts in your answers also. For example, this article is saying that India having the fifth largest reserves of the rare earth minerals, but still relies on China because India lacks these advanced technologies for extraction of these rare earth minerals. Okay, use these type of facts in your answer so that it adds value to your answer. Not only that, you can add this fact in the introduction of your answers also. That's all. Now we will move to the next article. Now this article is saying that an avoidable strategy, an avoidable tragedy. Okay, this article is saying India must take measures to reform the crowd management. Now, what is the context of the news? The context of the news is that recently a cinema actor in Hyderabad, that is Allu Arjun, who is recently very famous for his movie Pushpa. During his visit to the cinema theater, during his release of the film Pushpa 2, a stampede was happened because a lot of people gathered there. One woman died, and his son was, having injuries and all those things. Now, this lead to the issues of, inefficiency in the crowd management, especially regarding the local administration and police officials. Now, this came to the limelight. Now, this is the context of the news. Hence, not only this, this article is also mentioning that India has one of the highest, rate of stampedes because people gather in India for a lot of things. For example, we have religious festivals. We gather there. We conduct the jatras and all those things, and we conduct political rallies, celebrity appearances. For example, if any celebrity comes, a lot of people gather there. All those things. Now, when stampedes like situations are happening, this reflects the poor crowd management and failure to ensure the public safety. Okay, even NCRB data saying that around 3,935 incidents of stampedes were happened, in which 3,000 deaths were occurred in the last 2 decades. Now, this is the thing. So the author is saying that we need to properly manage the crowd. That's what the author is saying. The first and foremost thing is what are the key incidents that lead to the gatherings in India. For example, this article is saying that religious gatherings is one of the thing that leads a lot of stampedes. For example, it is being said that in 2011 Sabarimala stampede, there are around 106 deaths. In 2013 Kumbh Mela stampede, around 36 deaths are there. And in political rallies in 2014, for example, 30 lives were taken, Gandhi Maidan in Patna, okay, and things like that. Now, what can be the, contributing factors? What can be the contributing factors? So this article is saying major factors can be the, negligence or mismanagement. Now, it is being said that, when someone is coming or some political event is happening or religious festival is happening, a proper planning is required. Otherwise, insufficient planning lead to, lack of crowd control and inadequate safety protocols. This often exacerbate the risk because crowd are confused on where to go, what to wear, what to do, and things like that. Another important thing is unpreparedness. Questions arise regarding the preparedness of the local authorities, event organizers and celebrity teams to handle the large crowds and all. Now, this have a lot of factors, but our focus would be on managing the proper crowd management. For that, this article is giving certain suggestions. Now, why this article is taken for discussion is because These type of articles are very important, especially from the perspective of case studies in GS paper 4. Okay. Now we will see certain suggestions given by this author so that you can use it in similar questions in GS paper 4. The first and foremost, suggestions given is that proper planning. That is, this involves pre-informing that certain event is conducting, so that accordingly officials make arrangements and all. Taking proper permissions, so that when there is proper permissions, you can easily ascertain the responsibility and accountability of any such event happen. Next important thing, this author is saying that we need to having adequate spatial planning that involves multiple entry and multiple exit points, so that capable of accommodating large crowds, right? And next important thing is spatial and thermal comfort. Now, when large crowd are concentrated in one place, it is difficult to, sometimes it leads to suffocation and death and things like that. So we need proper aerial spaces and hydration facilities and all those things. For example, in recently you said because of dehydration and all, some people who have died in the political rallies in Chennai recently. Things like that may happen. Okay. Another important thing suggestion given is that emergency preparedness. See, this article is saying that we need to deploy medical aids, trained personals and management protocols at all the events, so that if any emergency issue happen, they can easily address on the spot. And next, so that mandatory crowd safety audits need to be conducted at large gatherings before conducting such events. For example, let's say if a certain auditorium is frequently using for the large crowd gathering, frequently periodically we should conduct this crowd safety audits in such type of auditoriums and places. That's one thing. Next important thing is creating accountabilities and standards. Now it is being said the crowd management is very unorganized way of conducting events. Okay, generally. Now this article is saying that we need to establish a non-negotiable standards for crowd safety for religious, political, and entertainment events, so that to prevent future instances like that. Another important thing is that transport or communication. This article is saying that we need to ensure that clearing the roads, diverting the vehicles, avoiding traffic should be very much pre-planned. Otherwise, normal public life will be disturbed in other areas also. Okay, this is what this article is saying. Okay, try to use write in an organized format, because that is what UPSC expects from you, especially in the GS4 answers. Okay, like this. Now we will move to the next article. Now this article is saying that should the wealth tax be reinstated in India? Now what is the context of the news? One of the French economists said that we need to tax the wealthy people in India so that there is a wealth redistribution to address the problem of income inequality in India. Now we often hear about these reports called Oxfam report and all these things. Now which saying that 1% of the individuals are holding 40% of the income in India and things like that. Okay, this indicates the economic inequality in India. Okay. Now, this article is particularly important from the perspective of inclusive development, a syllabus topic in JS Paper 3. Now, if you see PYQ mains question, it was asked that, how far it is possible to achieve inclusive development in a free market regime in India and things like that. Okay. Previously, it was asked. In that such type of questions, these kind of discussions are, can be relevant. From examination perspective, especially from mains perspective, we need to understand, what are the advantages of wealth tax and what are the disadvantages of wealth tax. Now, this article is saying that by taxing the wealth, from the revenue generated from that can be used in the health and education. Now, this is what mainly, the argument for imposing the wealth tax. Okay. There are counter arguments for this also. We will see from the examination perspective. Okay. Now, from the constitutional angle also, in DPSP also, it is been said that our economic system should work in a way that prevent concentration of wealth in few hands, and wealth should be used in such a way that is used for the common good and things like that. Okay, we have moral obligation and things like that in from that aspect also. Now, this article is saying that there are certain arguments, for imposing wealth tax. First and foremost argument is reducing the economic inequality. Okay, wealth tax, target the super rich people, so that the amount that is generated can be redistributed among the people, so that this addresses the growing gap between the rich and poor. Now, this is one of the argument. Now, another argument can be, saying that by taxing the super rich people, it boosts revenue for the government, which can be used for the social welfare. That can be health education. Funds collected from the wealth tax can be used for health education and infrastructure development, so that it benefits the broader population. That is what's saying. Another important argument can be encourages the productive investment. Now, what does it mean? It is means that many people discourage the individuals from holding the wealth in non-productive assets like gold and real estate, potentially channeling the funds into productive sectors. That what does it mean is that, see, if you have a lot of money and all those things, many people see when they have a lot of money, they invest in the real estates, gold, and all those things, right? Now, when we tax those things, so that this discourage the people, to invest in unproductive assets like this, like gold and all those things. Okay, that's what one thing. Next, moral justification. Now it is being said that by taxing the wealth, it ensures that wealthiest sections of the society contribute a fair share to the nation's development and align with the social justice, principles and all this. This is one way of moral justification that's what giving. Okay. This you can use in the ethical perspective also, right? Okay. Now next. Now aligns with the global practices. Now what does it mean? Countries like Norway, Switzerland already imposing this type of wealth tax. This shows that there is a feasibility in addressing, issues of wealth concentration and boosting the public finance and all those things. And some people also say that it improves economic inequality and overall development, as it acts as a coercive, corrective measure against the concentration of resources in the hands of a few. This fosters a more balanced, economic landscape. This is what the arguments for this. What are the arguments against? So we will see what are the arguments against or disadvantages of wealth tax. See, in this article it is mentioned that by imposing wealth tax, we can use the revenue for health and education. Okay, but this article is saying that though you may impose the tax on the wealthy people, you cannot use that money for the people in the right way. Why? Because there are institutional efficiency. In institutional inefficiency, what does it mean? There are corruptions. Okay, the money that is collected can be rerouted to the corruption. That means officers involved in the corruption, they will divert the money. What do you say? So there are a lot of corruption is there, that that. Another important thing is that because of the corruption, last mile people cannot be reached the benefits. That is what this author is saying. Next important thing is sectoral inefficiency. What does it mean? See, this article is saying by taxing the wealthy people, that money can be used in the health and education. But the reports like ASER, Pradham, all these are saying that there is lack of quality education. You're focusing on collecting money, but not quality of usage. What does who answered that? That is what the argument. Another important argument is that high administration cost. It is being said that assessing and collecting the wealth tax requires a lot of extensive resources. This often making the cost of administration even higher than the revenue generated. That's one way. Another is difficulty in valuation. Now, what does it mean? See, accurately valuing certain type of assets, especially intangible and non-liquid ones such as real estate and jewelry. It is very challenging and prone to a lot of disputes. Now, this increases burden on the judiciary especially. Now, next important thing is flight of capital. Now, remember this is a keyword. Now, what is meant by the flight of capital? See, wealthy individuals may move their assets or shift their base to countries with lower taxes. Okay, this may lead to loss of capital from India, even loss of investment from India. Okay, they may shift their investment and capital base into some other countries. Now, this is what flight of capital. Now, next encourages tax evasion. Now, what does it mean? See, tax evasion is nothing but escaping the tax laws. Okay, that's what one thing. Now, see, it means that because of the complex structures that can be created to hide transfer wealth, leading to the reduced transparent and complex issues. Okay, if you're taxing the wealth, they may create various ways of tax evasion also. Now, that is what the author is saying. Another important thing is discourages wealth creation. Now, what does it mean? See, if you are taxing the super rich and all those things, this discourages the people or disincentivize the people who are interested in entrepreneurship, innovation. This potentially slowing the economic growth over the long term. Now, this is what the author is saying. Another impact can be potential of double taxation. Now, what does it mean? See, wealth tax may be seen as taxing the same income twice. Okay, that means wealth is often accumulated from already taxed income. Now, what does it mean? See, for example, let's say if a person already got a lot of profit from a company. Let's say he got some 10 crores. Now, already he was being taxed for this 10 crores of profit. Now, this 10 profited money he used for buying a car. Now again, this car is again taxed and all those things and things like that. In this say there's a lot of double taxation. For example, if he repatriated his money in another country, that means he taken his 10 crore to some other country, that the country will again tax him. Now in this way there is chance of potential double taxation. Okay. Now this is what this author is saying. Now remember this point so that you can use as a subheadings or side headings, okay, in your answers. Now overall this article is saying that while the wealth tax may have the potential to address the income inequalities or address the issues of health and education, even generation of revenue to the public welfare, but practical implementation is very difficult. Okay, for example, in terms of valuation, administration and compliance. Okay, to ensure effectiveness, first of all, India would need to build a robust institutional framework so that we have to minimize the loopholes and create the policies that balance the economic growth with social justice. Okay, that is what this author is saying. This article is saying. Now we will move to the next article of the day. Now, what this article is saying? Now this article is saying that should assisted dying be legalized? Okay. No, this assisted dying, from the syllabus perspective, you can link it to the JS paper 4 in terms of compassion and ethicality. And from the polity perspective, you can link to Article 21 because in common cause versus Union of India case, it has been said that right to die with dignity is an integral part of right to life and personal liberty under Article 21 of the Constitution. Okay. Now, hence, because of this judgment in 2018, okay, passive euthanasia, that is assisted dying, is actually legalized in India. That means nothing but withdrawing life support for terminally ill patients in other countries. Now, especially this article was in news because recently, November 29, Britain's House of Commons voted to legalize the assisted dying. Okay, that's what the thing. Now, most of the people supporting this also, 75% are backing it, according to the survey and all those things. But there are certain people who are opposite also. So, from the examination perspective, we'll see both, arguments for and argument against it. Okay. Now, what is the current situation of UK as per the regarding, assisted dying and all? See, presently, suicide as such is not a criminal offense in UK. But if someone is encouraging suicide, other person's suicide, or assisting in someone's other person's suicide, is punishable with 14 years in prison. Okay, that is what the thing. Now, presently, it is being said that because of these changes, assisted dying, can be legalized, prevent any such kind of, imprisonment and all those things. Now, the article is saying that their argument is that this is part of the right to life and right to self-determination because this is freedom from cruel and degrading treatment because when someone is aging or someone is disabled, they're having a lot of dependency and a lot of mental issues and all those things. This degrade their life, no one is respecting him and all those things and things like that. Now that is what the thing. Now, from India perspective, just now I said that India recognized this right to die with dignity under Article 21 from the 2018 Supreme Court ruling. From then, even in 2023 also, India have some guidelines also regarding this, so that there is a streamlined process. Now it gets the doctors, seizing the futile medical, interventions and all those. Overall, the author is saying that the Britain's assisted dying legislation, that involves, balancing in individual autonomy, ethical considerations, and societal safeguards. So this is what the thing. From the examination perspective, we will understand the what can be the arguments for and arguments against this, assisted suicide. Now, first and foremost argument for assisted dying or passive euthanasia is that respecting the patient's autonomy. Now, what does it mean? See, using passive euthanasia allows terminally ill patients, to make decisions about their own life. So that this includes right to, refuse, life prolonging treatment because sometimes patient needs, prolonged, long-term treatment, which cannot be, advisable also, which they may not like, and they may face internal problems also, which they cannot say and things like that. So they want to ensure their bodily autonomy. They want to end their life sometimes in a very peaceful manner. That's one thing. So that's one thing. Right to die with a dignity is also comes under this. Next, prevents prolonged suffering. Just now I mentioned that. Using this type of passive euthanasia avoids unnecessary pain and suffering for the patients with no hope of recovery. Sometimes doctors also they say that there is no chance of recovery from these type of things. No hope of recovery. So that by withdrawing these burdensome medical interventions and all those things. Okay, things like that. Next, justification. See, it is seen as less controversial than active euthanasia. See, passive euthanasia is less controversial than active euthanasia because this involves withholding or withdrawing treatment rather than taking direct action to end life. Okay, in active euthanasia, you are taking something that you are doing something or injecting something to kill someone. Here in passive euthanasia, it is saying that it involves just withholding the treatment. That means whatever the treatment you are providing, you just stopping. You just stop providing this. That's what the thing. Hence, it can be ethically justified also. That is what I was saying. Next important thing is reduces emotional and financial burden also. By seeing your family member or close person in the terminally ill, you'll be always in distress and emotions. By using these type of measures, it prevents emotional distress for the family and reduces the financial strain on maintaining the life-sustaining treatments that may not improve the patient's conditions over the time. In other way, you can say that, for example, let's say you may have someone family member who is facing these issues of terminal ill, who is prolonged taking treatments very prolonged manner in a lifelong treatment. So it may have a lot of financial burden also, emotional burden also, if there is no hope of recovery and all those things. Now, avoiding these type of things, you can avoid such things. Next important thing is aligned with medical ethics also. See, many medical ethical frameworks prioritize quality of life. We often hear this quality of life is very important. So medical ethics also says that medical ethics prioritize the quality of life over mere prolongation of life. Okay, so that making passive euthanasia a more acceptable in certain circumstances. That is what the thing. Next important thing can be it recognizes the natural process of death. For example, if you're continuously giving the medication and all those things, surviving the person at the edge of his deathbed, it's again as a natural process of the death also. See, allows, this passive euthanasia allows death to occur naturally without any aggressive medical interventions, which some view as interfering with the natural course of life also. Now, these are the arguments. See, these are very much important keywords that I have taken curatedly from various sources. Try to use them in your answers, okay? Next, we will see these arguments for, arguments against this assisted dying. The first, disadvantage can be, potential for abuse. Now, it is being said that, see, the decisions about, withholding or withdrawing treatment may be influenced by the external factors, like financial incentives or family pressures. These type of things will raise the ethical concerns. Next important thing is ambiguity in decision making. See, it is very difficult in determining whether the decision to withdraw the treatment aligns with the patient's wish or not. For example, if a person is not able to speak on the deathbed and all those things, we cannot know that whether this patient is in line with the decision or not. Especially if advanced directives are unclear or not. That's one thing. Next important thing is emotional impact. See, emotional impact on families and healthcare providers also. This cause, because these type of things can cause guilt and emotional distress for the family members or even these healthcare professionals also who are involved in this process. Like another important thing is that slippery slope. What does that mean? Any critics argue that this may lead to normalization of euthanasia practices. For example, potentially this may lead to active euthanasia also over time. Sometimes it may lead to unethical decisions also. Another important thing is a potential for abuse, as I said before. For example, let's say there are disabled people in the home and they are leading a normal life also. Sometimes because of some instance they may be, completely or terminally ill, but they want to lead a life, because of the social issues and peer pressure and all those things, the family can be forced, to take the decision of this passive euthanasia against the interest of the patient. Such type of things are there. Now that's why there are some, physically disabled people and vulnerable sections are protesting against this bill in UK. Undermines the hope. This is one of the disadvantages. For example, people are somewhat ill. They may have the hope that they will recover over the time. Now, by having these type of decisions and all those things, they prematurely may end the treatment or stop the treatment in the process because there is a chance that there may be, recovery in the future and improvement in the patient condition. By stopping suddenly, against the interest of the patients and all, this undermines the hope and willpower of the patient also. These are the challenges. Now, this is what the mention. Okay? Try to remember or use these points in your answers, especially in JS paper 4, if at all asked. Or if it is not directly asked, you can use this passive iteration as an example in the concepts like compassion and all, legal, ethical concept, legal versus ethical, not legal or not ethical, something like that questions. Okay. Now we will move to the next article. Now this article is saying that why strengthening fisheries extension services are crucial. Okay. Now this article is mainly talking about aquaculture and fisheries in India. Now, fisheries as such is a very important topic, especially in the broader context of blue revolution. Okay. Now, this topic is important from the main perspective in JS paper 3. If you see this previous year question, it is saying define blue revolution, explain the problems and strategies for pisciculture development in India. Now, this is one of the main questions. By seeing this, you can understand the significance of this topic. Okay. Now we will see what is there in the news article. Okay, this article is saying that India's fisheries sector, supporting approximately around 3 crore farmers, 3 crore, fishermen or, fish farmers. No, because of this, there is significant rise in the production also recently. Now, recently, it has been said that around 175 lakh tons production is seen in the year this 2022, 2023. Now, try to remember these facts because it is not that they will ask in prelims. Rather, you can use this fact as an introduction in your answers in mains examination. Okay, that's one thing. Next, it is being said that 75% of the this fish production is coming from the inland fishing. Now, this can be important from the prince perspective. Okay, inland fishing. 75% of the fish production in India is coming from this inland fisheries. Now, this article also saying that India is the second largest. Okay, second largest fish and aquaculture producer. Okay, second largest fish and aquaculture producer globally. So, presently, India is focusing on strengthening this last mile fisheries and aquaculture extension services, mainly to address the challenges and promote the sustainable practices. Okay, that's it. Now, to promote these extension services, now there are certain steps taken. That is Matsya Seva Kendras. Another one is Sagar Mitras. Now, these are the two provisions that are taken as a part of his Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Okay, as a part of this scheme. Now, this article is saying what are this, role of Matsya Seva Kendras, how do Sagar Mitras support these fisheries. Now, even the direct questions may not ask. You can say that, these type of, as a case study or best practices such as Matsya Seva Kendras or Sagar Mitras, you can use in agriculture, like that questions also as an example. Now, what this article is saying. Now, this article is saying that the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, these Matsya Seva Kendras are, one-stop centers for fisheries extension services. Now, what they will do, they will offer this water and soil testing, disease diagnostics, technology backed, some capacity building services and all those things. Okay. Even if someone want to put up this Matsya Seva Kendras in the at local level, at district level or regional, block level, government is supporting 60% funding for women and weaker sections to set up this Matsya Seva Kendras. For example, this article mentions at an example, like in Kerala, they are saying that this Matsya Seva Kendras are providing disease tests through advanced labs. In Maharashtra, they are focused on capacity building of people who are having basic education. With technology infusion, they are training them. Okay, government also supporting this, minimal, local level startups also based on this Matsya Seva Kendras and cooperatives and self-help groups also to share the best practices among the people themselves. Okay, to ensure that there is, new changes in the aquaculture that they can adapt to the climate, changes. That's one thing. Next important thing is the role of Sagar Mitras. What do Sagar Mitras do? See, Sagar Mitras are deployed in the coastal regions. Sagar Mitras act as intermediaries, between the government and fisheries, okay, fishermen. So what they will do? They will provide critical data on the daily catches of the fish, prices of the fish, because sometimes fishermen don't know what is the price, price market. They don't know weather forecast. So these Sagar Mitras provide data about the weather forecast, when to do fishing and all those things. Okay, local fishing regulations, all these type of things. These Sagar Mitras also make them aware of these hygienic practices in the fishing and disaster preparedness also. Over the time, this author is also saying that there is a need of integration of these fisheries initiatives with the Krishi Vigyan Kendras. Just now we are mentioning extensive services to the fishes such as this Matsya Seva Kendras. We also have this Krishi Vigyan Kendras, right? Now, author is saying that we need to integrate these fisheries initiatives with Krishi Vigyan Kendras overall so that extensive services are very strong and will reach in a better way last mile. Okay. And there are certain, digital platforms also such as Aqua Bazaar, virtual learning platform that offers training on the breeding and seed production for educated youth who are, into this, fish farming and all those things, right? That's all. So this author is saying that India's innovative initiatives like Matsya Seva Kendras and Sagar Mitras and some digital platforms like Aqua Bazaar are key to improve these fisheries extension services. Okay, there is a need of institutional convergence, sustainable practices, and we have to leverage technology so that this will ensure greater productivity, capacity building, and long-term growth in the fisheries and aquaculture sector. Okay, this is about the thing. Okay, remember this Matsya Seva Kendra, Sagar Mitras as an initiative so that you can use in suggestions in the fisheries question. Remember that India is the second largest fisheries and aquaculture producer globally. Why I'm saying these are the facts? These are the facts that you can use in the introduction of your answer so that it is very easy to quickly start your answer or end your answer. On blue revolution as a keyword, you can use that in the conclusion also by saying that by taking the above steps, India can achieve the target of blue revolution, things like that. Or you can use this data of 175 lakh tons production of 2020-2023. This indicates that growing significance of fisheries in India. In this way, you have to link the questions. I hope you like the video. That's all for today. Thank you.